Hi, I'm Bianca Cotton, host of Behind a Confident Smile, and I am here with the beautiful Karli Butler today to discuss her life before the attacks and loss, grief, and violence. Welcome, Karli.
Hello, Bianca. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm grateful that you said yes to being here today. As we talk about your life before two attacks that occurred back in 2006, can you share your earliest memory of feeling safe?
Yes, I actually have this moment captured as a photo. It's a picture of my mom sitting in my Nana's lap and then me sitting in my mom's lap. And we just are kind of embracing each other. And I just look so joyful. And so when I think about feeling safe, it was in my mom's arms.
Oh, wow. So let's talk about your mom and your relationship with her.
My mom was my girl. Like, I was definitely a mama's girl. Always loving. She always did things to make me and my sisters feel special and cared for. Um, I just admired her a lot, and I think people could see that we had a very special relationship.
Yeah. So with your feeling safe in your mother's arms, and it sounds like your nana's too,
Hmm.
right? Wrapped in this love. Um, Take us through your journey of life with your mom, and then getting to the point of the age of 22 uh, and that pivotal moment for you.
Yeah, so when I think about my childhood, something that I especially remember that was impactful for me was my mom accomplishing her dream of becoming a Chicago police officer.
Mm.
So that happened, and maybe I would think I was in third or fourth grade, right? I didn't know exactly what was happening, but I knew she was going through a lot of training. And then when we went to her ceremony, I just felt so proud to be there. So her being an officer really shaped our life, and it helped me to see her as more than just a mom, right? To see her thriving in her career. So my sister and I, we went to private school and private Catholic school because our family, they came up as Catholics. And I just remember my mom always encouraging us to participate in different activities and try new things. And so when I got to high school, she was very focused on like keeping the lines of communication open.
Yeah.
So I always felt safe talking to her. And when it came time for me to go to college, she was super encouraging. I have a memory where I think I was 19 years old, and I woke up on Christmas Day and there was a full set of luggage under the Christmas tree. And I was like, what is this? And she was like, well, I know you're going to travel the world. So she would like speak life into me, like speak positive things. She wanted me to go and travel and do all the things I think that she didn't do because she had me at 19. And so, like, knowing that, I always wanted to, like, I wanted to do well, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she really encouraged me to step outside of my comfort zone. And I think she put me in situations where I would have opportunity and exposure to new things. So I think graduating from college and having her be there was like one of the happiest days of my life. I felt like I made my whole family proud being the first person to go to college. And she had a lot to do with me, um, like getting through it,
Yeah.
right? She was always on my mind. And, she passed away shortly after I graduated, just a year. And so I had grand plans to move to New York City, which she would have supported because I'd done some internships there. But the job offer that I had gotten, the pay was so low. I was like, it's okay, I'll make it work. She was like, how are you going to eat? Right. So she wasn't discouraging me, but she was really trying to get me to think about it. And it was shortly thereafter that she would tragically pass away. And my whole world would be turned upside down.
So you're a year out of undergrad. Your mother tragically passed away. How did you sit with that at that time, being such a young woman?
Oh man, it was totally shocking, overwhelming. Like I felt like my whole sense of safety was just gone.
Mm,
Like the rug was totally pulled under from under me, and I just remember it being a blur, because it was also very, traumatic.
yeah.
Um, and so I feel like at that time, I felt like she's been preparing me for this day my whole life
Mm,
without me knowing it. And I'm like, okay, I got to get it together. Like I have sisters who need me. I still have to keep going, but it was very hard for me to do that.
mm. What what made you think that you had to keep going? And
Um,
I ask that because it's specifically for Black women, right? We don't always think that we deserve a break or
mm,
can take a break because, like what you said, I have sisters, I have people counting on me. Like, people counting on us may add the additional weight of responsibility that we cannot have a break.
that's true. I feel like I internalized a lot of what I saw with my mom and my grandmother
Mm,
and my great grandmother of just like pushing through. And so it wasn't necessarily a healthy coping mechanism, but it did help me get through at that moment.
yeah.
So
Mm,
I acknowledge that. I wish I
yeah.
could have rested.
Yeah. And thinking about what does rest look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we haven't seen examples of what rest looks like.
Yes, that's hard. And
Yeah.
so even, at this age, I'm 41. Um, I'm still trying to do some meaning making around that
Mm,
as a mom, as a professional,
yeah.
as someone who's dating. Like
Yeah. Out in these streets,
in
right?
these streets, what does rest look like?
Like, what does rest look like?
It's a
Wow.
struggle, honestly.
Mm. But we can find meaningful ways daily
Mm.
to take moments of rest and have respite. So with your life turning upside down and a significant loss for you, and you coping in the best way that you know how, did you and also possibly like walking around not realizing that you're still grieving, right? Because you're pushing through. Because grief can show up in different ways.
Hmm.
So how did it show up for you and even your family too?
The loss of my mom was devastating for everybody. And I think our grief manifested in different ways.
Mm,
So for me, I was mostly just like wanting to cry and sleep, but then also trying to escape a lot. So I found
mm,
myself traveling and partying and like trying to get away from the feeling, um, you know, wanting it to have just been a nightmare. And then I'm like back to reality. And I think I think everybody did the best that they could with what they had at the time. So I find myself trying not to like be judgmental about how people coped.
mm,
But I think that um, with time and therapy, we could have, I think, done better together.
mm.
So,
Yeah. So with the traveling and the party and the
mm,
escapism, um, bring us into your relationship during this time period and how that either helped or harmed your time of loss that you were experiencing.
yeah. So at that age, I had been dating a guy since college, I think my junior or senior year, and um, he's not like the kind of guy that I would typically dated. And the night before my mom passed away, she'd even said to me, like, keep it light with him, like have fun. But like, I think she was trying to let me navigate my way through the relationship without telling me what to do. Because we know what happens sometimes when parents like tell you something, it's like
Right.
you do the exact opposite. And so that stuck with me because it happened like right before she passed. And unfortunately, in my time of sadness and grief, it just pushed me closer to him. Like it felt like safety and comfort when really there were all kinds of red flags, right? So I think the sadness and the grief, just the red flags just went away. I was like, I need what feels good now so I can get through this right now.
And what red flags did you say, I'm going to just sit that over there?
Well, I had never really seen him as like a long-term relationship. I felt like we had fun together. So just whispers about him being in the streets and, not him not living right. And because I felt like it was fun, I didn't really take it seriously. Like his lifestyle could impact me. And unfortunately it did.
And how did it?
So I was, attacked twice in 2006. Once where some guys attacked me and stuffed me into the trunk of my car, and I fortunately escaped that. And then a couple months later, I was held at gunpoint and assaulted with acid. There's nothing that I could have done to somebody to provoke something like that. And so just from, connecting the dots, it definitely has something to do with him.
And how did you cope with knowing that it had something to do with him after the first attack? Right, being stuffed in the trunk of your car. What did that do to you?
It scared the hell out of me. It changed my brain chemistry. I literally had to fight for my life and make a decision. And it changed the way I looked at him and a lot of people, right? Like questioning people's intentions and, what kind of stuff they could be bringing into my inner circle. So, there were a lot of hard lessons from that experience, but I'm fortunate to be here to be able to talk about it and share about it.
Yeah. If you could go back and talk to that Karli, what would you say to her?
Oh, wow. I had to, I would say you did the best that you could where you were. And even though you didn't make the healthiest choices, at the time, you coped as best as you could. So I want to tell her, like, it's okay. Yeah. Like, everybody makes mistakes. And to forgive yourself for that and not stay there. And, also to trust your inner voice. Listen when you feel something is off about a person, so that you don't find yourself in danger.
What's up, Chicago? I'm Darius Caffey, and I invite you to join me for another episode of The Table on Air with the new Midwest Community Engagement Associate from UNICEF, Austin Caffey. Take a look.
It's not youth or adult, it's youth and adult. We have to do these things together.
Join the conversation with us on Tuesday, November 14th at 7:30 p.m. on CanTV Cable Channel 19, streaming on cantv.org and available on the CanTV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
That's something to sit with, right?
Yeah.
Almost 2 decades later. And then with the second attack, the acid attack, walk me through what you felt in that moment when you realized what was happening to your body.
Yeah, when you know, the woman who attacked me, she held me at gunpoint, right? And I was trying to surrender. So when I felt the first splash on my face, I think it was like terror and pain. You know, then I felt the second splash. So it burned so badly that I couldn't think. I could only react, right? I needed to save myself. And like whatever clothes weren't like melting off me, I was ripping them off. So I knew my life was going to be different. I knew that I was going to be different, not just physically, but emotionally. And yeah, that memory is just, it's right at the top of my mind. It'll never go away.
When we think about recovering, one from emotional trauma, right? But this is also physical and mental and compounded with, I just recently lost my mom. She was a person of safety for me. And now I've been attacked not once, but twice. What did recovery, or would you say you've recovered, right? Depending on how we define recovery, right?
Yeah.
What has the road to recovery look like for you?
So all of those losses took me to a very dark place. I have not always been in this space of recovery, right? This has been a long journey of therapy and, repairing relationships and forgiving a lot. So just thinking about the days where I didn't see a future for myself, like thinking back on that is really hard for me because I can't believe that I got there, right? And I don't ever want to go back there. But when your life has changed so drastically that you can't even envision a future for yourself, like it's hard to put the pieces back together, right? So I lost my mom. I lost the guy that I was dating. My relationships changed because, my friends and they all got to go back to going to party and everything and doing their thing while I was trying to heal and recover. I feel like I took my anger out on the people closest to me because I didn't know how to process all the hurt, right? And it took me a long time to decide that I didn't want to live like that anymore.
Was there a particular moment that you recall saying, you know what, I don't want to live like this anymore in darkness and sitting in my hurt?
Yes. At the time I was like recovering in my grandparents' basement. My dad was like helping me. I had to wear this face mask and these like, they're called jobes. Imagine like pantyhose for your whole body that are like 2 sizes too small. And that was to help with all the grafting, right? And I was watching the news. And so I just remember there's a story about somebody who died. Like they didn't make it back home. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here so angry and in darkness and just being mean, right? But there are people who didn't get the chance to recover. They didn't get the chance to heal or make a comeback. And there was that moment where I was like, I don't want to live like this anymore. And then also, you know, the woman who attacked me, I was so mad with her that she was consuming my mind. So all I could think about was like revenge on her, right? But that wasn't hurting her, it was hurting me. So I was like, I can't live like this. And that was when I thought like, maybe I should forgive her. So it started with a thought that then transformed into action.
Wow.
And that changed my life.
Forgiveness changed your life.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you define forgiveness?
Man, forgiveness is personal. I think it's more for you than the other individual who caused you harm. Forgiveness is like not being held captive to the person who hurt you. It's not forgetting what they did. It's not forgetting what happened. It's saying, I'm not going to let that thing hold me back.
That takes a lot of courage and vulnerability, right? To say, to one thing, I'm going to forgive someone who altered how I see the world, how I walk through the world, literally, because I want to be free.
Yes.
I don't want to be consumed anymore. That's courageous.
I hadn't thought of it that way.
That's courageous to say, I won't walk around with my mind and my heart shackled to a past hurt, not minimizing it by any means, but to a past hurt that may have ran up my medical bills. I am in debt, right? Like when you talk about skin grafting and the months or the years, this process, sitting with therapists, being depressed, I'm going to choose forgiveness.
And I'm going to choose me.
Yeah. So in you choosing you, what has that meant for your life now?
That has meant me just rediscovering the things that I love and the things that bring me joy. That has meant really investing in the relationships that nourish me. That has meant receiving the purpose on my life and using opportunities like this to share in a way that I hope helps somebody else. So many things.
So many beautiful things. So what does joy for you look like?
Joy for me looks like waking up in the morning. I find joy and inspiration all around me. In all the people that I meet, I try to look for that. It's just like a gratefulness to be here. So that leads for me, right? Gratitude. And I think that shows up in how I live my life.
Yeah. At what point did you start living in gratitude?
I think it was when I first decided that I was going to forgive. I needed to start really thoughtfully count my blessings, right? Like, I'm here. I have a family who loves and cares about me. I have health insurance, right? I have access to mental health services. I have a supportive work environment and a future ahead of me. I have the gift of healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just really being thoughtful about acknowledging all of my blessings and constantly expressing gratitude for them.
As we come to a close of our dialogue that happens off camera too, and what would you want someone to know who may have recently been attacked? What would you want them to know?
Oh, I always say, this is something that I say to myself. It's like joy comes in the morning, right? The darkness and the sadness is not going to last. And so you have to hold on to that. And in the meantime, do all that you can to heal yourself, right? Go to therapy. Seek out meaningful relationships and rely on your village, right? Find things that you love to do. Set goals for yourself so that you can look ahead to the future. Really lean into whatever your higher power, your source is, God for me. So like really having faith that God has a purpose for your life.
Yeah.
So you can get through it.
So Karli, when the book coming out? I'm just saying.
Look, you over here putting me on the spot. That's the kind of accountability that I need. I feel like, about 10 years ago, I started writing. So I have some things on paper, but I was struggling with perfectionism. Like, yeah. I'm not going to like it. And, the way I viewed what happened to me was changing so rapidly that I was like, I'm not going to be happy with what I put out, because what I would have put out 10 years ago would be very different. I'd have a whole different series.
Series
41.
Yeah.
So yes,
it's okay to have values,
so I can show the emotional and personal growth. But I think it's time. It is time.
It is time. It truly is time. And if you could, which this may be really hard, if you could talk about your life's journey in one sentence, how would what would you say?
Okay, well, I actually have something already that I share. So I started a business around sharing my stories called Burn Beauty. And so my tagline for that is showing the world there's a beautiful life after drama, trauma, and scars.
Thank you for that. Thank you for being a blessing to all of us who have the privilege of knowing you and getting to know part of your story. Because this is just one piece of your journey.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, thank you all for tuning in. You have your marching orders, meaningful relationships, wrap yourself in love and village, seek mental health services, and pursue joy in your life and set goals. Thank you.